All right, you guys. Chris here from Localis, and Nick here from Snug and from his own ventures. And we wanted to post a quick video to our YouTube. It'll actually be the first video that we post on YouTube. Kind of talking through this whole idea behind this tasting menu and these pairings and all this stuff, and kind of how we came about. We're sitting outside, so sorry for any car noise or anything, but it feels nice to be outside because I just want to be outside right now. So without further ado, we'll kind of get started. I'm going to let Nick talk about his cocktail creations, and then I'm going to kind of go back and talk about the dish that I created because of that, because definitely I wanted him to come up with cocktails first. Much like in wine pairings, I don't really err on the side of having the wine and then having the dish and then trying to find the wine that best fits it, because one is a static and one is not. And you can change the food to do anything that you want, but you can't change the wine. So I've always kind of had a reverse appeal to how we pair, and I've always wanted to work with Nick. Actually been chasing after him for quite some time. But nonetheless, we felt like this was the perfect time to kind of see the two different areas of the service industry come together. I thought it's really neat that a bartender and a chef get together versus a som and a chef, or a chef and a chef, or whatever else. And so he came over to help us do some cocktail stuff so we could get our program up and running, which he did a great job with. And then we decided to do this. So we have a really cool video from one of his good friends and an incredibly talented videographer, photographer named Marcus, and you'll definitely be seeing that at some point in time, I'm guessing soon. But in the meantime, we just wanted to kind of give you an idea of why we did this and how we did it. So I'm going to hand it over to Nick. He's going to talk about the first drink, and then I'm going to talk about the dish afterwards. So tell us about the drink.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's super cool that we're getting to, that I'm allowed to make the cocktail first and then have Chris pair after the fact. So much more often it's the other way around. As bartenders, we're constantly pairing our drinks towards the spotlight, which is the dish. So to kind of flip it, interchange it right now, I think is super, super cool. So for the first drink, it's funny, it's based off a drink, it was one of the first drinks I ever made while I was working at Crew. And it's funny because it's still like one of my favorite drinks to this day. I peaked really early on, but I've been messing with this structure a ton. Chris added the idea of using green strawberries for it, which was crazy as we were kind of tasting it. I was showing it to him. He talked about infusing coffee into the sherry as well, which is just another thing that I would have never ever thought of. But the drink is tsunomono, which is typically your pickled food that you're getting at the beginning of a dish to start out with. It's Japanese. It's a Japanese term. A lot of the drinks here are kind of inspired off of Japanese flavors, me being half Japanese myself. So yeah, you have the gin infused with some sesame oil, pickled green strawberries there. Chris had some pickled green strawberries I made a syrup out of, and then the Fino sherry infused with coffee, a little bit of citric acid to balance it out there. And yeah, that's the drink, Tsunomono. And then so, again, none of the pairings that Chris did were anything like I had imagined. I've done a few of these pairing things before, you know, working with chefs and seeing kind of the ideas and how their mind works, and it's always very interesting to see. But I will say, Chris has got to be one of the craziest experiences I've ever had, because not one thing that came out of his mouth is what I would have expected pairing-wise. So, yeah, first course.
Yeah, so I think that speaking to that actually is I don't try to be fringe. I don't try to like have crazy ideas, you know, that don't make any sense and try to make them sense. I think that's kind of your food's always going to speak smaller voice if you do that. So for me, I always just think about the flavor. I just drink something, I eat something, and I think about it, and what does that mean to me? And that's what we came up with. The point of the coffee was really, I'd never really seen Asian cuisine tie together coffee and those flavors. But I kind of always thought that the fruit acidity of coffee would play really well with something like those Asian flavors of the Japanese flavors. So when I had the cocktail, I was looking for something. I didn't know quite what it was, and coffee came to mind right away to balance certain areas and kind of like pull certain flavors together. And then when I started thinking about the dish, I kind of really started diving into the idea of those flavors of umami that you find in Japanese cuisine that could tie together with coffee. So we start off with cured hamachi, We're gonna just pepper it with a very light peppering of very finely ground coffee. So throughout the bites, you'll get like these little tiny bursts of fruit acidity from beautiful coffee that we're using from Camila, which I know is something we share in common, is our love for Camila coffee. So we got the cured hamachi left raw, nice and cold. We're gonna mix together green strawberries, which have a lot of strawberry flavor, but also have a tartness, with some kazami wasabi, which is pickled wasabi root, so actual wasabi. So you'll get kind of that really nice balance of acid and spice and salt and umami. It's kind of like a condiment. Then we made a nori aioli, which we tried today. Super awesome, tons of umami. But we built these acidic flavors into the backside of that aioli, so as you eat it, it won't be cloyingly umami. You can be cloyingly sweet, you can be cloyingly salty or umami, but I think that the ticket is to try to find a nice balance between the two. So it's a crudo dish to start off with. It's not cucumber season, which is something that Nick was like, let's do the Tsunamoto drink, and I'm like, no cucumbers. And he's like, but, and I'm like, yeah, no cucumbers. But that's how we ended up coming out with green strawberries, because you have a textural component that kind of works. You also get that slight acidity, a little bit of sweetness. It's a lot like a cucumber, so I think it worked out really well. At this point in the video, we haven't had the dish and the drink together. So we're talking about theoreticals about how this is going to work, but I think that you guys trust me as far as food and wine pairings or food and beverage pairings, and I know that you trust Nick to make delicious drinks. So that's our first course. Second course started out with the cocktail.
Yeah, so this cocktail, short story is the name of the cocktail. It came about really because of around one singular ingredient. That was the kiwi curry sorbet from Localis. They've been serving that. It was one of the first things I tried when I got here, and immediately knew that I wanted to make a cocktail kind of playing off of those flavors. So kind of an agricole rum came to mind. I ended up using the charanda urupan, which is essentially like a Mexican cane spirit. That blended with a little bit of scarlet ibis, so Trinidad rum, a little bit of genepi adds in kind of this herbaceousness, but while not being too overly herbal, to help round it out. A little splash of fizzy water, and yeah, all those flavors just kind of mimicked and played off of each other and came together to make a really just nice, refreshing cocktail that you played off of with.
Yeah, so this is one of the ones that completely didn't make sense from what he was thinking about the cocktail. And the kiwi curry sorbet itself didn't make sense to a lot of people, and I decided I wanted to do it, but it's been one of our #1 selling flavors. It's actually going to make it onto the next round because we're switching out our sorbets and ice creams and everything. And I just wanted to mention too that short story wasn't so short, was it, guys? It was like at least 3 or 4 minutes. I mean, it's a long time. I'm just kidding. But anyways, when I had the drink, as in some pairings, you know, like nothing's the same, right? Like you're not always embellishing one flavor or taking away one flavor or doing this or doing that. It's always just kind of what you think when you have the drink. And when I had the cocktail, I knew I wanted something rich and fatty, but I didn't want to do that in the traditional ways. So we decided to do pasta. Our egg pasta here is rich, it has great texture, and it gives you that kind of almost creaminess when you chew it in the mouth. And I knew that I wanted that with the cocktail. And then because he's using kiwi and curry, which is something I love, we've done it in a couple of courses already on tasting menus, but I wanted to go against that green curry flavor and not just use green curry, so I'm going to use red curry. So we created a pappardelle pasta. We're going to cook it down with a little bit of our house-made red curry oil, not butter, because we wanted to stay away from those fatty things like butter, since we're using the pasta as a way to be rich. Our red curry is very spicy. That's something I kept pushing him on, was like, make it spicier, make it spicier. I like a spicy drink. I think a lot of people don't love a spicy drink, so I think this was a great compromise between the two of us to go like, I'm leaving my drink the way that it is, which is delicious, by the way, but I'll make the dish a little spicier. Then we do a lamb larb, which is pretty much just like minced meat of some sort, chicken, or, you know, we use lamb because I love lamb and Thai food together. You don't see it very often, but I think it pairs really well. And larb is just pretty much like sauteed with ginger and lemongrass and kaffir lime and shallots and all of these beautiful flavors. Very aromatic, very tasty, like savory meat. Some English peas in there to bring some green bursts, because we weren't going to use kiwi in the dish, but bringing those green elements in will kind of like tie together those flavors. I was really excited about the Mexican rum. I'll call it Mexican rum because it kind of is that, but you know, it's not technically called rum. But I'd never had anything like it before, and it's a very unique style of liquor. I really hadn't had something like it before. It was kind of like mezcal, and it was kind of like rum, and I don't mean mezcal like in the super smoky aspect, but it had like these reminiscent qualities of both, which I think is really fun. And we actually have a cocktail here called Smoking Green, where we use green curry and mezcal together. So it's kind of a play on both of those things to bring together a dish that adds some spice and adds some richness to a drink that is very, like bright and really kind of like floral and amazing. I think the Genepi ad that he did was really great because it does bring this like herbaceous quality that melds really well with Thai flavors. So after that is the big weirdness that came when we were coming up with this, because I tried all these drinks blind for the most part, so just like try them and just think about what I would do with it rather than him tell me everything that was in it. And then I kind of decided the pairing, which would kind of be like what Psalms do, right? Like they have a list and they have the food, and these go together. This time we just wanted to leave it be a little bit more natural. So the next cocktail is
I served him all the drinks out of order, and this is the third course, but when I had served it to him, it was intended to be the fourth course. I thought this was textbook, like after dinner drink, kind of wanted to finish it off with your sweet dessert, but his mind had other plans in mind. And so the third one is, so first of all, two of my favorite things are sherry and vermouth. I absolutely love it. It's what I'm drinking most of the time, I think, if I have a say in the matter. So I love showcasing that through reverse drinks. So that's taking typical drinks like Manhattans or martinis and flipping it so they're vermouth or vermouth heavy and lighter on the base spirit. So that's what this third one is. And we called it Left Bank because that's immediately chef started going into a grid tasting as he was doing this is Left Bank, this is started going into a grid tasting like he was blind tasting wine when he tried the cocktail. But so Left Bank is essentially some Spanish vermouth backed up with a little bit of Oloroso sherry. So that's sherry that's been left out to oxidize, has some of those natural nutty caramel rich notes to it, and then a little bit of Japanese whiskey just to give it a little backbone as well. Finish off with just a teaspoon of banana liqueur, which doesn't come in super strong, but what it does is kind of tie in all the flavors together and adds like sort of a roundness and nice texture and mouthfeel to it. But that was the drink. That was supposed to be the dessert course, and you had other plans.
Yeah, when I was tasting, I was blown away because I always love when someone puts something in front of me that I know it's not, but I like to see that it is. So when I was tasting this cocktail, right away on the smell, I'm like, man, this smells like Bordeaux. And then I tasted, and my mind was not even anywhere near dessert. I had no at all inkling of like, oh, let's do a dessert with this. And it had these rich tones to it that really kind of characterize Icy as like, great Cabernet, but it had this, sort of slightly innate quality. I almost thought Right Bank because of Merlot and some of those flavors. But I loved the cocktail. It was deep and it was rich, and to me, it was calling for that entree course. That most of the savory course, and I just started spinning off of that. I thought I was going to do braised meats. I thought I was going to do this and that, and then what I realized was that I wanted to let the cocktail be the cocktail and not try to match it, but just nuance the flavors that are in it. King salmon season right now is just starting. I know they're having issues because of COVID-19, so if we have to use Ora King or another really great king salmon, we will, but we'll be using mostly Monterey Bay local salmon, which is, we don't put salmon on our menu at Localis at all unless it's in season. It's just one of those things for us where a lot of restaurants serve salmon. We only want to serve it when we can get that amazing product, which does taste different than everything else you'll get. And then the other thing that I really wanted to tie into, I've kind of been on a barbecue kick lately. You'll know that if you've been to Localis in the past 4 or 5 months, we've had barbecue intermittently on the menu here and there. I think it's an underused flavor profile, and I know there's a bazillion different kinds of barbecue, but just the flavor that we all assume and kind of understand as barbecue is something that I think is just used on its own. You don't see it highlighting wines or stuff like that. It's a beer thing or it's a this thing. And I think like Beaujolais and barbecue is a pairing that we did recently that was spectacular because barbecue has those same kind of notes, and I really got interested in doing barbecue. So we're going to do a barbecue soubise, which is an onion sauce cooked down in cream. Very basic, very not anything super intricate, but a really deep flavor with like slightly spicy and slightly acidic and slightly sweet and slightly all of these things. So it really does well with something like salmon, which is, when it's that fresh, is fairly neutral, but you get the richness and the fattiness. So you think about like pork and beef and all the things that you barbecue as being very fatty. Instead, we're going to do it with fish. Then we actually are going to make a change. By the time you see this, we will have already changed from asparagus salad to wild mushroom salad. I just got the very first of the porcinis and my second batch of morels in. The first morels that we got weren't beautiful, so we ended up using them in a way that we could get the flavor without seeing them. Now they're absolutely gorgeous. We had some really great rains, so we'll see them for the next couple of weeks at least. But we're going to do like a warm mushroom salad. And then we did this beautiful potato pave, which is just a real fancy word for potatoes sliced super thin and stacked. We use a green garlic butter and a little bit of salt. We wanted that green quality in there just a little bit, because when you think of Left Bank, there are those Parisines and Cabernet Sauvignon that you always kind of like go back to. It's a tasting point for me. And when you think about it as a Somm world, and I'm sure you'll agree, you get told Coca-Cola qualities are in Cabernet Sauvignon, especially from Left Bank. So we kind of wanted to play, that's the barbecue, right? Like barbecue and Coca-Cola are fairly similar in flavor profiles. So I'm really excited to see how this dish, which doesn't have a lot of bright notes to it, is earthy and kind of rich and has all those little flavors of barbecue, but without the barbecue being the prominent taste to pair along with this cocktail. And I really love the cocktail. I couldn't wrap my mind around it for a little while because I was thinking dessert, but my mind just wouldn't go to dessert. And then later on, after he tells you the final drink, I kind of realized that I just wanted to have them in a little bit different progression, and I think we were both really stoked on the outcome. That brings us up to dessert.
Yeah. So the last drink is essentially a highball. The name of the drink is called Slow Ball. Slow, S-L-O-E, for slow gin. Distilled made using sloe berries, so adds this nice kind of fruity component that reminded me a lot of ume, reminded Chef of cherries, and just has this nice red fruit quality to it that plays really, really nicely with Japanese whiskey. So we kind of split the base there with Japanese whiskey, and the slow gin added a touch of elderflower liqueur just to give it some sweetness, again a little bit more body, topped off with a splash of soda water. A super simple highball, and it goes great with what you had prepared.
So this was another cocktail that I had, I think, earlier on, like second or third drink.
Yeah, something like that. I know this was first.
Oh, this was first. That's
easiest,
right. Yeah.
To me, this was the easiest drink.
Yeah, you were like, this is first course.
Yeah. To me, I was like, this is the simple one. I want to do this first for you. So yeah.
And when I had it, I was like, this is going to be first or last savory course. I didn't even think of dessert yet. But what I was thinking is this is light, but because of the Japanese whiskey, you kind of get this like depth to it that I think that could be something early on. It's a light drink. It's effervescent. It seems like it would be a good starter with the red fruit quality of the sloe gin, which I didn't know about sloe gin either. So that was a really cool learning opportunity for me because I had no idea, and I did some work on it and kind of found it's kind of like America's elderberries, where they mostly grow wild. The sloe berries are the same thing. They mostly grow wild. And when I did taste the drink, I first off thought cherries, even though there's no cherries in it, there's no cherry liqueur or bitters or anything. I just instantly thought about cherry. And it's cherry season. We got the first of the Brooks cherries from RG Farms this week, or last week I should say. They're absolutely stunning, and I knew that at that point in time I wanted to play with the red fruit flavors and then add in blue fruit flavors because blueberries are obviously just now happening as well. So what we've done is created a cherry pie. Funny thing, I hate cherry pie. As a consumer, I don't like cherry pie. I never have. But I love the flavor of cherry, and I love the idea of cherry pie. I just don't love it. So we kind of wanted to deconstruct something that we do often here. But we're going to do a brown butter pie crust, and it's going to be laid on top of a cherry and blueberry compote. And the reason that brown butter is so important to this is it has buttermilk in it, it has salt in it, it has brown sugar, and then it has brown butter. So you're going to add these molassesy kind of qualities to it, which I think whiskey in general have innately, you know, they are that. So I wanted to bring, because the whiskey isn't a prominent flavor in the cocktail from my perception. It was light and it was lovely, but I wanted to extract some of that flavor. And once again, we talked, you know, throughout this whole time about not every pairing is the same, right? Sometimes you're trying to embellish, or sometimes you're trying to detract, or whatever it is. This one I wanted to bring out that whiskey quality, so that's the brown butter and that's the brown sugar. We've crystallized some blueberries, which is really cool. It's using egg whites and sugar, and then you leave them sit overnight, and they have this crunchy outside exterior, and then obviously a blueberry interior. A cherry gastrique. Gastrique is pretty much just a reduction of vinegar and sugar, so you have high acidity, high sweetness, and you reduce them down. We're going to do that with a ton of Brooks cherries, so you get that real cherry forward appeal. But I think that little bit of sauce on there, I mean, the compote is baked, so you get that quality of baked fruits. But I think that the gastrique carries a really high brightness because of the high acidity, and that's really going to kind of like take those reddish flavors from the slow gin and embellish those a little bit and bring them out a little bit more forward. And then we're going to finish off with just some pickled cherries. I haven't figured out exactly what else I want to do on there yet, but the final one that I'm so excited about is the cherry limeade sorbet. Usually you would never eat sorbet with something like cherry pie. I don't care. I like fresh and bright, and I think that with brown butter pie dough, you don't need more fat, you don't need more richness. So we're going to do a cherry limeade, which is literally just cherries and lime juice with simple syrup. There's nothing else in it, and I think that's really going to enhance that slow gin kind of cherry flavor that I get in the cocktail. But super fun. And then on a final note, without the pairing, it's just the intermezzo, but we're bringing back geranium sorbet. We do it intermittently throughout the years. We started with it. It's kind of like the fan favorite. It's my favorite. I love rose geranium. It's such a beautiful flavor. But we didn't want to highlight that in a cocktail. I think that's kind of fun because, you know, Localis, with its own cocktail program, the geranium gin and tonic is kind of our thing. And it's really cool that I finally got some perspective from somebody outside of my own wheelhouse. And I don't want to, you know, give him too much more ego right now because, you know, obviously he's Nick Amano and everyone loves him. But what I did want to say was that it was super exciting working with someone with as many ideas as I have and as many wants and desires to do things as I do without it ever coming into a contest. Now, I never thought like, oh, well, I want my imprint on this or that, and he never thought, well, I want this and that. We just said like, what are we going to do together? Let's talk together about what we feel about each other's dishes and drinks and everything else, and let's really come up with something that can be both of ours without it having to be my ideas with his, you know, input or vice versa. And I think that we could all really benefit a lot from trying to find people that are as interesting and as different and as unique as we are as human beings and work with them. You know, it always seems like it has to be someone's idea that other people help with. And this was a really fun menu, and it was really interesting. It's the first time I've ever done anything like it, and it's really fun. And I'm hoping that you guys enjoy this. I'm hoping that you watch the whole way through. I mean, like, talk about short story. I am not a good short story guy. I talk a lot, you know. So yeah, we ended up talking till 5 a.m. one morning because we were just like talking, and then both of us were like, "Holy shit, let's go to sleep." But we really hope you enjoy this menu. Check out Nick at Snug. He does a lot of stuff with a lot of different people, though. Obviously, super creative guy that has a lot of ideas that can't all come out in one place. So check his stuff out. He's got his tags and all your stuff on the menu, and we hope you guys enjoy. Let us know your feedback. Hashtag Eat It Localis or tag us as Eat It Localis. Chef Chris Barnum, Nick Amano, Snug CA, right? Yep. And then he's also got his own personal pages or pages you work with.
Bartender_Akita, and then That's the Fucking Drink is a new page that I've been working on with a very talented group of friends, just bringing things all beverage content related.
Yeah. And Equal Parts Project?
And Equal Parts Project as well, yeah. Another page just trying to kind of find the balance of productivity and enjoying life, but also taking care of yourself, you know, mind, body, and spirit and whatnot as well. So, yeah, a lot of fun little side projects that keep you busy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, enjoy the meal, enjoy the cocktails. We didn't even talk about wine pairings. No reason to. They're going to be cool. I chose some stuff that I think will pair between, so we'll have a Trinity pairing for the first time that I've ever found out about.
It's a wine pairing based off of a food pairing based off of drink. So it's like a pairing inception here that we have going on.
Yeah, we're getting real deep. You're going to wake up at any second.